little technical issue.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Again, unfortunately, our pianist is not going to be here today. So Dave has offered to take over with his beautiful voice.
Well, we'll see. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where you want to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When the true simplicity is new, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning, we turn round.
Welcome. Welcome to this beautiful church and this beautiful group of people on this beautiful winter day. We're so lucky to have the sunshine, and we're so lucky to have all of the beautiful ocean around us, and just lucky, right? It certainly is a blessing, and I'm absolutely happy to be here, to be with you today. So, yes.
Speak a little louder.
Certainly I can. I am very good at that. I've been told to be more quiet in the past. Okay. So welcome. Anybody have any announcements?
I do. Yeah, the Course of Miracles continues to miraculously be performed every Friday from 9 to 10 a.m. Our leaders, one of them is holding the mic, another one is sitting right there, another one is sitting back there, and another one is sitting there. So all of our leaders except for one who's up in Boston somewhere. So we'll continue to entice you with a philosophical and theological and eschatological approach to life.
Just to bring everybody up to date on UU Article 2, I guess it was a course or whatever it was. We finished up this past week, and I guess what they're trying to do is replace the Article 2, which sort of gives a guidance to how the entire national UU conducts itself. So just to give you a kind of an update, they want 6 values: kindness, love, spiritual growth, renewal and repair, trust and agency, interdependence. The UU General Assembly is going to be in June in Pittsburgh. You can attend in person. I guess there's a charge, but also you can go online for free. They're saying. I don't know if it's in that magazine, because I've never seen any kind of information on the General Assembly ever since I've been here, but apparently we have delegates that can attend. We're allowed 2 delegates by the size of our congregation here, and but it's also open to any members of you. So if anybody's interested, it's going to be in June, and being online, that's open invitation basically anyway. I'd like to see what it's like. So anyway, that'll be in June. And what the Article 2, if there's any new faces. So I guess every 15 years, the UU National has a responsibility to go back over its bylaws and look at its bylaws and make any kind of changes or recommendations to adapt to a new generation, I guess. And so this past bylaw change is called Article 2, which I can't even think of the Article 2 title is. But anyway, it gives a whole description. It's online and a PDF. You can just go to uu.org and look up Article 2 and you can see it. So that's what's going to be presented at the General Assembly adoption throughout the national.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out to visit us again. How was your trip? If I just let everybody know that Daniel DeBono will be our guest minister next week, so please come.
You know, talking about the John.
No, I know where you're going. I'm right there with you.
Please join me in our child's lighting words, finding the order of service. We light this chalice for the challenge of freedom, the goal of equality, and the warmth of community. May all who gather here honor, loving kindness, and grateful heart.
The antiphonal hymn, hymn number 136, is, oh, it's a reading, sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't know if your order of services have the invocation next. Okay, because I thought I had left it out. Okay. So please join me in our antiphonal invocation. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, and the anguish behind cruelty. Let us worship, not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears. Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body. To those who have fallen in love with life, let us worship and let us learn to love. And now please rise in body and in spirit for our first hymn, number 136.
So the hymn is meant to sound like rolling waves, and that's what it's talking about. I'll sing a little bit so you have a flavor of it. Where gentle tides go rolling by along the salty strand, the colors blend and roll as one together in the sand. And the thunder winds between us and the distant cold, the quiet joys of humankind when love embraces all. Let's continue with number 2. Where road and street together rise along the common ground. The hare and stallion, light and dark, have thunder in their sound. The rainbow sign, the planet flood, still have my heart and throat. The quiet joys of what we share with love embraces home. But we have come to plow the tides, the road lies on the ground. I hear their prayers in the field, they drive the stallion down. The rose has blown both light and dark, the winds so seldom fall. The morning sands recall the time when love embraces all.
Now please join in our affirmation. Number 470. We'll all read it all. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life, rising from the earth and reaching for the sun. All living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship, rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars. People the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world. Do we have a musical selection?
Not off the top of my head, but hold the phone.
Okay, we're holding the phone.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. There's more to that. The story, I don't know if you know it, but the guy who wrote this became a Episcopal clergyman person in England. But before that, he was the captain of a slave trading ship. And that's why he wrote the song. It was amazing grace that someone would save him from what he was doing. That's amazing grace.
Our reading today is by Wayne B. Arneson. We come together today seeking a reality beyond our narrow selves that binds us in compassion, love, and understanding to other human beings and to the interdependent web of all living things. May our hearts and minds be opened to the power and the insight that weave together the scattered threads of our experience and help us remember the wholeness of which we are a part. Blessed be.
Our next hymn is number 148, our freedom stand, both east and west.
Yes. Please rise in body and spirit. Number 148.
Let freedom stand, both east and west, and love both south and north. In universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. And beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion find. beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed. Let us make friendship human with our common faith and deed. That east and west will meet and share, and south shall build with north. One human commonwealth of good throughout the whole world.
The sermon is called We Share the Sky. I thought of so many better titles after I wrote it. There's a book called 97 Orchard, written by Jane Fiegelman. And this is an excerpt of what is in her book. I changed it a little bit. It was just around midnight, New Year's Eve, inside of 97 Orchard Street, in a tiny apartment on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. The Baldizis celebrated New Year's with Svinge. It's a round, donut-like, without a hole, pastry. Mrs. Rosario Baldizzi took the batter of flour, yeast, and water, which had spent the afternoon rising under a blanket, dropped spoonfuls into a vat of boiling oil just as the clock chimed midnight. The oil made a whooshing sound as it turned the Svinges golden brown and fluffy. Next, she rolled them in sugar, then fed them, still hot, to her kids, so their new year would start out sweet. This is just one example of how several populations of people used delicious food, holding on to their traditional recipes and customs to lighten the load of a very difficult existence after coming to America. The Baldis lived in an age-old tenement building which had been there since the tenements began to be built. Tenement living was horrendous, to say the least. Between the mid-1800s to 1919, real estate agents flooded the Lower East Side with humongous buildings, squeezed, one right next to the other. 80,000 tenements in the Lower East Side, 4 to 6 stories high, were built. Over 50 in a 45-acre block. There were so many that author Deborah Hopkinson titled her book about this history, Shutting Out the Sky: Life in the Tenements of New York, 1880 to 1924. Each apartment was 325 square feet. Many housed families of 10 or more, plus boarders. People had to take in boarders in order to afford the rent. There were only 2 windows in each apartment and a toilet in the hall on every other floor. The buildings were for the estimated number of 17 million poor immigrants that flooded the US between 1880 and 1919, who had few choices as to where they could live. 3 particular people highlighted in Ms. Hopkinson's book were Leonard Covello, Rose Cohen, and Marcus Eli Ravage. Covello came to America with the name Coviello. His teacher couldn't pronounce it, so she changed it to Covello. Many of the immigrants, in order to fit in, changed their names at Ellis Island, changed into American clothes as soon as they could, and some even gave up their religious or cultural habits. Many learned later that they didn't have to do that in order to be part of America. Rose Cohen joined her father in New York when he was able to send for her. She was flabbergasted the first time she saw her father use money on the Sabbath. Her 8-year-old brother, who came later, threw his old big clunky shoes that everyone made fun of off the roof of their tenement, so his parents would have to buy him new ones. As young people, Leonard, Rose, and Marcus had high hopes for America and their futures. Leonard came from a difficult life in Italy. There wasn't much to go around, so his father came to America first and to try to create a better life for his family. The rumor was that fortune could quickly be had. Leonard's grandmother's farewell words were, and I quote from Ms. Hopkinson's book, "The gold you will find in America will not be in the streets. It will be in the dreams you realize, in the golden dreams of the future." When Leonard and the rest of the family joined his father, he was happy, yet troubled by the poverty, the buildings that housed so many people, the sharing of a toilet. America wasn't what he thought it would be. Rose Cohen looked forward to seeing her father again, as he had come before her. She and her aunt were the first he was able to bring over. Once she arrived at the tenement where her father rented a room for the three of them, she knew things were not as she thought they would be. She did not lose hope, however, but ultimately did find it difficult to leave the apartment. Wandering to the roof of her building, she saw the full sky for the first time since her arrival. It was in seeing the sky, realizing that it was the same sky her mother and sister back home might be looking at, that brought her happiness. And perhaps it was then that she found the courage to become a part of the many outside on the cobblestone streets. Marcus Eli Ravage came on his own. He was 16. He walked from Ellis Island into New York by himself. He had convinced his family to sell their cow so that he could get the money to come over. Having come from Romania, his journey was to escape religious persecution. The inequality in his homeland would prevent him from fulfilling any of his dreams. His journey was an adventure, as he believed he would become rich in no time once he got here. His thoughts after his arrival, and I quote from Ms. Hopkinson's book, "I shall never forget how depressed my heart became as I trudged through those littered streets with the rows of push carts lining the sidewalks, the ill-smelling merchandise, and the deafening noise. So this was America," I kept thinking, "the opportunity to live in those monstrous, dirty caves that shut out the sunshine." Many of the immigrants who traveled here with high hopes of a better, easier life were disappointed with what they found. Work was hard to find. Once work was found, it was still hard to eke out a living. People worked 1, 2, 3 shifts sometimes. The streets were cluttered with people, push carts, and vendors, and the tenements, as you know, were not the best. But most of the people who came here did not lose heart. They were used to working hard, and so they did. Their dreams of America stayed with them. And the one thing that they all had in common was the meaning of breaking bread together in community. In their new home, they found a plethora of food available, and the immigrant women had the skills to put together amazing dishes. Marcus Ravage rented space from a cousin. He was astonished when she brought home a full bag of groceries, maybe not that big. The largest eggplant, which some immigrants called a blue tomato he'd ever seen. An exotic yellow fruit in the shape of a cucumber, a banana. And then there was a cauliflower, a vegetable his father had only eaten once in a big city and had talked about it ever since. To say nothing of meat, which she cooked for lunch. Imagine, back home in his village, only rich people could indulge in the luxury of meat in the middle of the day. After earning his first 70 cents, Marcus treated himself to dinner at a Romanian restaurant. Pot roast with mashed potatoes and gravy, chopped eggplant, and olive oil. His first meal paid with his own earnings in America. In her book, 97 Orchard, An Edible History of 5 Immigrant Families in One New York Tenement, Jane Siegelman wrote how immigrants on the Lower East Side maintained their roots with the foods they cooked and the meals they shared. Vegetables were readily available at push carts and at the variety of grocery stores. Onions, celery, potatoes, cabbage, beets, sauerkraut, beans, eggplant, and carrots, used in stews, soups, and casseroles, were common at every meal except breakfast. Often on a restaurant menu, vegetables were sold as an item. You could buy just a bowl of vegetables. In addition to the groceries were the meat markets, where a salted ham, a sausage, or corned beef, or rabbit could be found. The fish markets had salmon, a staple on many tables, oysters on the shell, a real luxury, and trout, pickerel, or pike for the Jewish gefilte fish. Also, there were the delicatessens. If one was celebrating and not cooking, there were restaurants and lunch diners where people gathered in community on the weekends. The evening meal where the family gathered was a tradition that carried on. Everyone, without a shift to work, was expected to be there. In the midst of all the adventure, the disappointment, the loss, fears, and excitement of the unknown, the souls of the people remained. With the availability of foods in their new land, they were able to keep many of their old traditions and holiday celebrations alive. And in spite of the crowds or the overwhelming amounts of people from many different places, each person was an individual with their own dreams and their own hopes. No matter why they came or how they managed to stay or what they did with their lives, each had an impact with their foods and customs on the way that we live today. Blessed be. Now is the time for us to share our joys and concerns. Share with you share with us what's in your soul today.
We're passing around the greeting card that just said hello to the reporters. All of it, we're thinking of. Where is the card now? If anyone hasn't ever expected it's on the table at the end, this is the benefit of itself. This is
I'd like to ask you all to keep my brother, Buzzy Kirk, in your thoughts and your prayers, as he's not doing very well right now. So he's a good guy. Thank you. Now for our next hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. Please remain seated.
We'll sing this through twice. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stories of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots only close, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me. blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Now let us join in a moment of silence. Amen. Blessed be. Now it's time for our offertory. Your contributions are a tangible commitment to the mission and vision of this congregation. Each time you give, you renew this commitment. And as a result, your support is entwined with all that we believe and all that we do here together. This is its own special gift. In this spirit of trust and generosity, we gratefully accept the offering. Please be generous.
Come, ye faithful people, come, raise a song of harvesting, fruit and crops are gathered in, safe before the storms begin. God and Maker will provide for our needs to be supplied. Come to God's own temple, come, raise a song of harvest home. All the world is but a field, given for a fruitful yield. We attach together strong, if our joy or sorrow roam. First the blade and then the ear, then the full corn shall appear. God of harvest, grant that we wholesome grain and pure may be.
Now please rise in body or spirit for our final hymn, number 121.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness is bound for morning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come and build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come and build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace where justice and roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come and build a land where sisters and brothers, appointed by God, may then create peace where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirit, once faint and once weak, where hosts of righteousness stand the people. Oh, we'll build a land, my people we seek. Come and build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Please join in our chalice signature notes. As we
Take a welcome, wish for all, and share your love with us. Amen. Amen. Not yet.
the
No
benediction.
final amen until the.
You want to hear the benediction? I think he does. He wants to hear it. Benediction, words by Norman V. Naylor. Reminded that we are part and participants of the universe, let us go forth from the quiet of this hour, encouraged to strive toward faithfulness to the best in ourselves, in others, and in the whole creation.
Amen. Amen. Abide with thee, as falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and fears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where grave thy victory?